My guest this week is a fantastically talented DJ, producer, label owner and podcast host. He's part of the Southampton supergroup FooR, has played the likes of Boomtown, Peer Jam, Amnesia and Garage Nation. His group has seen their music signed and released on the likes of Warner Music, 440 Records and Friends of FooR, while securing distribution deals with the likes of ITV, Channel 4, Sky Sports. Is Gavin Foord. Good evening, Gavin. How are you?
Yeah, good, mate. You?
I'm very well. We were just talking about it earlier. We're sort of mid-December now, talking about going out around Christmas, potentially doing the unforgivable and our previous experiences of going out on Christmas Eve. You said you've stopped doing that now. Is that going to be the same for this year as well?
Yeah, I'm done. I'm retired from the Christmas Eve drink. We did a gig one time, Christmas Eve, and I didn't make it Christmas Day. And like my family have never forgiven me for that. And...
Is that just going too hard? Like, what sort of time were you rolling in? Do you reckon that like Christmas?
I don't know. I just couldn't wake up. I went into Christmas Eve. It was like we had Sparks and Kai. We all did like Sparks and Kai were like their garage MCs, classic garage MCs. Rest in peace, Sparks. He's no longer with us, but we booked them just to MC over us playing, just our mates. This is like years ago before we were anything. And it was just, if you can imagine, like performing with your like heroes. Like I think they stayed on for ages. It was incredible. The crowd was good. Like I've never been so fired up in my life. Like all of our friends, it was like, oh, I run a club. What can I do? I'll book our favourite MCs, and all of my mates to DJ of our favourite MCs. And it was just. We still do stuff like that. And we booked Bushkin from Heartless Crew for our last Christmas party, again, just to MC over all our mates' stuff. I should do it more. It's like the best
in a fortunate position where you can go, who's my heroes? Who's my heroes from my childhood? See if we can get them a collaboration in the club with the energy there. It's got to be a dream come true.
I recommend it to anyone that's a DJ. If you're into like, I'm like always been obsessed with MCs, Skibbity, Shabba, Det when I was growing up. Like, I watch any sort of video, any sort of things with them MCing on, I love. And I just always think, I'd love to have them MC for me one day. And then I forget that sometimes I'd actually just do it and book it, but I should do it once a year. It's like the best feeling ever.
Yeah, those old school take backs of like listening to, like you said, MCs going over the top there. And it's in a unique position to be able to go, right, I'll just go through. I can get in touch with their agent. I can get in touch with that roster and just, like you said, booking them over the top of there. How do you find it sort of, like, for example, that set where you booked your like your heroes back there, and if you hadn't met them before and you were DJing and they were MCing over the top, like before, was there sort of like any... Were they just sort of like naturally took like a duck to water, like you didn't have to do sort of like any preamble or meet them or be like, right, this is my mixing style or this is that style? They literally just went with it.
There was no conversation, especially back then. This is like not before Facebook, but it's not quite that long. But it was early Facebook, no Instagram, no ways of messaging these people. You just book them through however you book them, their agent or through them. They turn up, you go, oh, you're going to DJ with us. And they're like, cool, good, just roll with it. Like, nowadays, I think, mate, perhaps I don't know. I haven't booked an MC, but I think most of the MCs, the good ones, will just turn up and just go with anyone. And like some DJs will be better than others, but some of these people have been doing it. But the best ones have been the best ones for like the last 10, 20 years. Yeah. So they can MC over absolutely any nonsense.
Yeah.
And it sounds good. So yeah, but it's one of the best. It's of all the things that we do. That's like those are the moments that stand up, especially if you can get your friends involved as well. Because say we're all DJs, we all come up together, and we all met through DJing in local clubs and local residencies. So to share those moments with everyone is one of the best things so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, touching on there about, like you said, coming up with your friends, coming up and having those original residencies from Southampton. Mm-hmm. Taking it all the way back to your roots, taking it all the way back to the start, what are sort of your first earliest experiences with music? Not necessarily like DJing, but sort of like music in the house, or like sort of some of the first stuff that you remember listening to, some of the first albums you remember getting?
I can remember, I'm just really going to show my age. So I can remember when you used to have to listen to the radio with a cassette in, and you used to have to press record and play at the same time to record the song. And I can remember one of the first music memories is I can remember sitting in front of the radio trying to record Trent D'Arby's Sign Your Name Across My Heart, which is still a heater. If people haven't heard it, you need to go on.
I don't know it off the top of my head.
I'd sing it, but I'd butcher it. We've seen anyone like listen to that song, and I can remember seeing Michael Jackson, The Way You Make Me Feel video on TV, and being like obsessed with this guy dancing and into the Thriller video. And then that was like the first memories, but I can remember hearing the Prodigy, The Experience album, and just being blown away by it. Still blown away by it. How does he get these sounds? And there's so much. It's just you can't stay still when you listen to it. It's still listen to it now, and I'm still as blown away. In the Left Field Leftism album, I can remember being at my nan's house, explaining to her how good the Left Field album is.
Did she appreciate it?
Going through it, she pretended to, bless her, but she wasn't, which is madness. She should have been. It's a great album. But yeah, and I can remember just having all these albums in front of me and just like trying to play my nan all this 90s rave and dance music, trying to show her how brilliant it was. And then Goldie, Ronnie Size. But I remember it's the tape packs. I remember that, as we touched on slightly with the, not just the MCs, but it's having, when I was at school, like tape packs and flyers you could only get from the cool underground record shops. There's only 2 in Southampton, and they're daunting places to go into as a, however old, 11, 12 years old.
What were they called?
Movement Records, which I went on to work to, that'll come up, and Trip 2 Records in Southampton. They were the 2. They're right next to each other. One was a drum and bass one, just pure drum and bass, and the other one was everything. But daunting places to go. So people would sell flyers, the big Dreamscape.
Yeah, like the Fantasia and everything else like that, like the hardcore and the rave ones. Yeah.
They used to do these massive flyers that were like incredible art on them, and people used to stick them on their walls. But you have to have the bollocks to go and pick up the flyers from the scary shop. If you had the bollocks, then you could bring them into the playground and sell them. And if you had real bollocks and you could buy the tape packs, then you copied the tapes and sold the copies of the tapes. So I was buying these tapes and listening to it, and just, you had no grasp of I didn't have any idea what was going on, because my visual reference of music was music videos or Top of the Pops.
Yeah.
So you're hearing these vocals and a guy shouting and crowd noise and keyboard sounds. This is what's going on in my head. So I was imagining just the most energetic Top of the Pop performance ever. You know what I mean? Like Aqua on on 40. Like going around like girls singing really fast, a guy showing like someone must be on the keyboard like this, but just thinking this is amazing. But having no idea what was going on, just thinking I don't know what this is, but I was obsessed with it, and I was obsessed with finding music that no one else had. And I was obsessed with this underground sort of culture of it all. And then one day I saw the LTJ Bookham documentary, and LTJ Bookham was like, he was touring Japan. He was a DJ and he was touring Japan. And that's when I was like, oh, that's what I'm listening to. It's a guy playing records. And I just turned around to my mum and said, that's what I want to do. And she was like, nah.
What age was this then, do you reckon? What age is this? What are we talking, like 10?
I was 12. 11 or 12. I started really, really young.
Yeah.
And I was like, I kept on, and I was like, listen, look, no one else does this. I don't know anyone in the world that does this apart from LTJ Bookham, the people on these tapes. No one in Totton does it, which is part of Southampton where I'm from.
Yeah.
I'll be massive. Like, it'll be instant, Mum. So she got me these decks for Christmas.
I like the enthusiasm straight away. I like the enthusiasm. I like the confidence as well.
Like, and I understand it. Like, I get it. But I didn't understand it. But so I got the decks for Christmas, and then the next day I come back from school, and it's like, what'd you get for Christmas? Decks. And goes, oh yeah, he does that, he does that, he does that. I was like, oh, what? I thought I was going to be the only one. All these people that are doing it. And
so we're talking belt-driven ones? OG, like belt-driven, yeah.
Sound Lab, belt-driven, horrible.
Yeah, difficult to mix on, but
I didn't take to it at all. It's the only thing like I've ever stuck with to learn how to do it. Like I didn't take to it. It took me over a year to learn how to do it. No YouTube tutorials.
And what were you learning to mix on originally? Like, what sort of music are we talking about? Are we talking jungle, like you said, hardcore and stuff?
It was hardcore music. Was it? But any records I could get my hands on, like I was selling my school lunch to pay for records. I'd go into the record shop and buy records off John Doe, who's now my partner in FooR, and I've been made music with since this. I'll go in and they used to think that I'd like was robbing parking meters or something, because I'd come in with like pound coins and like, oh, I want this record, that record. But buying any record, like, you know, any record that they'd sell me, I'd buy. There's no sort of, I just liked everything. I still like everything now.
So from an early age and as an early kid, you must have had a mad record collection, like a really big, building it out, like weekly, monthly record collection. Oh
yeah, it was mental. And I lost, I put it into storage and it leaked, the flooded and lost a load of it. Still got some, but.
Heartbreaking, mate. Heartbreaking.
Yeah. So now I've had my decks refurbished so they work again. Going through the old records, and it's like I can remember where I bought this record and where I found it, and the trouble getting it. Like, and I miss all of this stuff. I miss the tape packs. I miss record shopping. I miss all of that. The difficulty of finding music, and also like your strength was in your record collection.
It was a unique thing, wasn't it? It was a unique thing. You'd go to see artists, you go to see DJs because they had a specific record. We sort of see it slightly now with dub plates, like in a certain couple of genres, like a certain artist will have a certain dub plate for a little while, like they won't really share it. Like it's probably pretty big. The biggest ones is obviously in drum and bass, and I would say maybe bass line as well, but probably drum and bass, to be honest, like where it sort of have that sort of dub plate culture still. But like you said, you used to go and see DJs because they would have that sort of style of music, and it would be specific to that sort of style of DJ. Like like you said there, you couldn't really copy. It was difficult. It was also an effort. I mean, I'm not talking like I obviously personally haven't experienced it, but going from like vinyl DJs, having to lug around 100 records and record bags and stuff like that, the weight of it, the sheer weight of it.
Bro, after that, after I gave up DJing for a bit. I think the timelines get a bit skewered, but I did commercial DJ, and I used to take 3 of these record bags, like to do 5 or 6 hours of vinyl. Yeah. Like that I don't miss.
Workout in itself, isn't it? Getting up and down the stairs with 3 record bags. One of the clubs
was the DJ booth was up a ladder, hoisting these things up the ladder. Like, mate, no way. No, that can. Yeah, that can't. I'm not into that. Like, no. It's great that people are buying vinyl again, but. I'm not taking a
long live the USB. Long live the USB at the moment. So we'll jump back a little bit, like you said there. We got slightly out of time. So you were buying records. You'd got your first set of decks. You were buying vinyl bits and pieces, mixing hardcore, and then there was a couple of other boys and stuff at your school that you were like, oh, he's DJing as well. He's DJing as well. Now, what sort of were the next steps there? Then were you to sort of like formate?
I got a job at the record shop. The same record shop that I'd go in and buy the records for.
Yeah, so that was with John Doe, wasn't it? Like you said, your
partner. With John Doe, and like James Abila was working on Saturdays, who was like went on to be like 11th best DJ in the world or something stupid, and a guy called Featurecast he's an incredible producer. He's done music for Apple adverts and stuff. It's incredibly like in this space of these incredibly talented people. I was only 15, like doing Saturdays, like, and all like my heroes from the hardcore thing, Hixie, Brisk, Ramos, UFO, Supreme would come in his record shop, and I was like, what the fuck? Like when people go, obviously didn't know who they were, like and you go afterwards, like, who's that? Because you just kind of, they'd have a demeanor about them, and they go, oh, that's Hixie, and I'm like, what? That's like, he's my hero. Like, I don't know what he looks like. I don't know what he looks like, but so me and him are friends now, and he really, if he hears me say that, he's going to really take the piss out of me. but he was, and like he brought the shop in the end. Again, my story. Sorry, I go all the way, but he brought the record shop in the end, and he took me to all the gigs with him and stuff, and that's where I fell in love with DJing. We'll come back to that, but yeah. I worked in the record shop, and it was just the most incredible experience. I can remember sitting there thinking, how do all these people come to one small shop in one city, like in the city I live in, like blew me away. And it sort of made me feel like, oh, well, maybe this is possible. Maybe you can have a career in this thing, like, because everyone's here and I know what this person do. But the one thing it did is it did delay me from DJing, because James Abila worked there. I don't know if you heard of James Abila, have you ever seen him DJ?
I haven't, mate. No, I haven't seen him DJ.
But if you Google him, he he's like the test pilot for Pioneer. Pioneer send him stuff now, and he works out and tells them what to do and what's wrong with it. He DJs now, and it looks like he's DJing in a spaceship. He's got so much equipment. But back then, obviously, you'd come in on a Saturday, and if we want house music, we'd play the house records, hardcore music, drum and bass music, whatever people want. You just skip through the records and go, yeah, I'll have that, take that. He was going between every single genre. He was scratching. He was doing. I was watching it as a kid, like, what? How is this good? And he was just a local. At the time, he was just a local resident at the club on a Friday night. He was the resident. James Abila was upstairs, and Artful Dodger and Craig David were downstairs at that stage when I was at the record shop. That was the level of talent in Southampton as a resident. Jesus. So I was like, well, I'm never going to be a DJ. If that's how good residents are, how good must Carl Cox be? If this is how good the resident is. So I stopped DJing. Like I thought, I'm not going to DJ, I'm going to make music. That's going to be my way in. And there was a studio upstairs, and there was an engineer called Steve Punch. And I used to sit up with him, and they'd leave me up there, and it was all about pressing buttons and seeing what worked, seeing what didn't, testing things.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's how that side. And then eventually, like, we started opening the shop.
Are we talking that's on the actual like hardware?
Hardware,
sizes, like actual like no Fruity Loops, no Ableton, no anything like that. Proper hardware back in the day.
No, Cubase and hardware, and we still use Cubase now. But then the record shop started opening on a Sunday, and it was open 12 till 4, and no one come in apart from like the odd guy who's still going from Saturday, like off his head. I'm peaking, and you sold him 300 quid's worth of trance, but that was like rare. So I would spend like 4 hours a week, just all the genres, and I just try and Zabila it. Like, I'm going to just learn how to. I don't know why I wanted to learn it, but I saw him do it, so that was the pinnacle. And then I taught, like, just learn what music, the BPMs of music, what music works, what music definitely doesn't work with each other. And
from that little tester, what would you say is a surprising match that goes together, like BPM wise or genre wise, where you were trying all different bits out? What did you learn?
I'll tell you what I learned didn't go together. Well, I learned that, you know, all sorts of stuff goes together. Like, I used to do a thing with Aha, Take On Me, and Bad Company. 6 days.
The 9? Oh,
no,
6 days. Yeah. Well, and Take On Me and that go together.
Yeah. Used to do a Shy FX Chopper and a Scott Brown record. A hardcore record, like, I might even do that. I might bring that back. But there was things, but like, well, it was good, but I learned quickly that doing it out is that there's an art to it. I mean, I still very much DJ like it now. Like, I want to find those moments where I could transcend and go from one thing. I want people not to expect what it is, and people, you know. I still try and do it, but I learned that you can do it wrong. When I first one of my first ever gigs, I learned that it can go wrong.
What was it that went wrong? Can you remember, or do you want to talk about
it? It was a remix of Olive, You're Not Alone.
Okay, yeah.
John Doe's remix of Olive, You're Not Alone, and I mixed Daniel Bedingfield. Got to Get Through This in.
Okay.
But so much like dust had got on the needle, it sort of skipped across. But I'm so like in the zone. I haven't really paying attention, and look. By the time I finished the mix and looked up, just everyone's gone.
Oh no,
the whole crowd is gone, and my friends still take the piss out of me now for it. Because they're like go on. I say, DJ last night. Oh, you play a schwa? He goes, oh, I do that big Daniel Bedingfield for me.
I think you can. Have you ever tried it on CDJs now? Have you ever tried to bring it back to get, you know, full circle closure on it?
I mean, I'd practice it in a record shop and it would work, but like, there's a huge transition from DJing in your bedroom and DJing in clubs, especially that, like, I'd say especially those days, still now, I imagine. But you didn't have the I was going to say it's easier now, and I couldn't pick why, but you can see the BPMs and stuff, can't you? People got sync buttons. There's all these things. Like, you had your ear. You weren't used to these massive monitor speakers. You weren't used to entertain it. Like, it was. I had so much more respect for DJs once you start DJing in clubs like that, and DJing with your ear. Like, I think it's still difficult now with having everything you got, but back then it was crazy hard. So yeah, that's what I got back into DJing through the thing. But then we started making. Me and John started a hardcore group called CLSM. We had quite a lot of success with that, but then vinyl sales stopped. People stopped buying vinyl, and that's how you got money for music back then.
So what sort of era were those people stopping buying vinyl, do you reckon?
2003, 2004.
Yeah. So this is just the CDs obviously were coming to the forefront. CDJs were just being introduced.
This was like the LimeWire sort of
early file sharing days, right? Okay, so that's sort of what became the decline.
People could DJ, like the CDs were starting to turn up in clubs. So you're burning stuff, turning up to clubs with CDs. You weren't buying the vinyls anymore, and it was getting to a point where it was difficult for two of us to survive on dwindling record sales. And obviously you'd have to sell the records before you could buy the next one and stuff. And it was a thing. And we did some remixes for Ministry of Sound and got some album deals. And it was like a load of money coming in. It was like, well, this is the time to split, because all the money's here. If we carry on, who knows what will happen.
Yeah.
So quit, and that's when I went on to become a manager of a club, which led me to...
What was the club?
It was called Earth Club in Eastleigh.
Okay.
Eastleigh's just up from Southampton. But the owner employed me to do promotions, and then because I worked in used to work in a record shop, I'd buy his records for him. He was the DJ, he was the resident, and then I was telling him that he's DJing wrong. Then I would do the first hour of DJing, the second hour, then I was just DJing, so I was managing and DJing. Then I was taking his records and doing gigs in other clubs. But this is like R&B and garage and stuff, which is far removed from the hardcore stuff. Not where I wanted to be, but I was just naturally just good at it, and that's what took me off into out of rave music and into garage and R&B. And
how did you find the transition from, obviously, if you're playing like sort of like you said D&B stuff and hardcore stuff, sort of that 174 165ish, that type of stuff, and then moving into like R&B and into garage? Was there sort of like much?
Well, no, because that's what I do on the Sunday in the record shop. Like around that time, we started selling hip hop and R&B around the same time the Sunday started, and I was just fascinated by it, and I just wanted to learn about it. So not just learn about DJing the music, but I wanted to know about the history of it. Like I was just always been fascinated by music and where it comes from, how it's made, the stories of how it's made, and like I'm still fascinated now by how things are made and how things come across and how things come out. So like I was just a student of music and still am, and like would just play those records, and I would watch DJs that do this sort of music, because Southampton had so many garage and R&B nights because Artful Dodger and Craig David and stuff. Like it was just a boom, and like the other people were signed off the back of it, and it's kind of like there's a garage night every night of the week, and that's where the girls were. So we'd go to these things, and then you'd watch the DJs, you watch the things, and then work in a club. You're like, well, you know. And as I say, the James Abila, Artful Dodger, they're the residents, so you can imagine how good the residents were. So I was like watching these residents during the week, coming back to our club on a Friday and going, well, look, you're shit, really. You need to be doing this, this, and this. And he'd get to a point where he would just let me do it, and then I just took over. Then I started doing gigs of his records, and then yeah, that was it. So
that was sort of how you, like you said, you cut your teeth there with the garage influence and stuff. How did FooR originate then from those sort of from those roots? So like you said, you had John Doe that you were in the music shop with.
Me and John stopped doing CLSM in 2004-ish. And in 2009, we started making music again. It was like the Fidget era. You remember Fidget? Like
is it sort of electro house type thing, sort of Fidget house?
J-Man, Andy George.
Yep. Yeah. I do remember that. Count and Sinden and stuff like that as well. Yeah.
So there was a club called Junk in Southampton.
Yes.
They had a night called Bang Bang on a Friday. I was resident of all their student nights, and I was doing just resident DJing 7 nights a week then. And
that's massive. Resident DJ, 7 nights a week. That is huge.
It was mental. I could do three or four on a Saturday in one night because it was that sort of, the demand for it was so big, and I was good at it. Well, I still am good at DJing.
Don't sell yourself short, mate.
It was probably earning more money than I did now. Like, it was mental. It was absolutely mental. Like, at that point,
7 days a week and sometimes 3 or 4 different gigs on a Saturday.
Yeah, it was crazy. So I was just out all the time.
Yeah.
But also a bit like, of those 7, of all those gigs you do a week, it's playing the same records, like you're playing to the same crowds. It wasn't breaking any boundaries. And I was seeing this music, and it sort of like took me back to those days of listening to the tape packs and thinking, what's this music? What's this?
Yeah, 2009. So this is, so like you said, so
2009, 2010. Yeah, like just catching I think it's very end of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, John, have you heard this stuff?" And he's like, "Nah." And I was like, "Oh, look, I'm going to come in, and like I've got this vocal. Like, we're going to come in. We did this song, and it got played by Andy George, my friend. All the promoters from Junk sent it to all those gigs, so they were getting good feedback. So because we'll try another one, and Mr. Jam played one.
Nice.
And we were called Maximus Baxter at that point.
Nice.
And then we went into dubstep and never really grasped the production dubstep. It's much harder.
So this is is this, what we're mentioning dubstep here, is this sort of starting just pre-Skrillex era?
Yeah, like this dubstep sort of took over from Fidget.
So like Caspary, Roscoe type style.
Yeah, all that the same. And this night at Bang Bang at Junk was a Friday night, and they played all this sort of stuff. Like, and I was playing with them, playing before, to start to get back into it, playing before them, and or playing downstairs in the R&B room while the things upstairs. But I was just exposed to all this amazing music and just falling in love with it. And then I saw Andy C again. Andy C was the first DJ I ever saw. Well, he was at the first rave I ever played. He was my favourite DJ at school.
Yeah.
And he played this Bang Bang, and I hadn't seen him or even thought about him for years. But like that, from the energy of the intro to thing, I was like, oh, look, I love this music. Like, how have I forgotten how much I like this and the excitement that this music gives me?
Yeah.
So I was like, John, right, I want to make rave music again. So we started making dubsteppy rave music, which started to get pick up from Toddler T and stuff, and started to get a direction. But I didn't know how to release it.
Yeah.
Again, still like the digital stuff, and I just didn't have a clue what to do.
So in 2010, that sort of era, what's going to be the biggest sort of releases there? Is it going to be iTunes and stuff? Like Bandcamp wasn't necessarily a massive thing there, was it? It would have been like...
I think there was some Bandcamp action, but yeah, it was iTunes, Beatport, all the ways it was now, but it was just, we were just trying to get a record deal.
Yeah.
We were making records, and then I was like hunting down using the clubs I worked at to get every DJ's email address, and like anyone I'd DJ with, I'd hassle them and things. And I was just trying to get a deal. Like, I can remember there was a thing called Hype Machine at the time.
I do remember that. Yeah, I remember the website. Yeah. It
was like, so it was blogs. This was the era of blogs where music was broken on blogs, and Hype Machine collated all the music from all the blogs and put them in a chart. And then you could, if you wanted to, you could go in and get the email address from each blog and email each blog your song. And if enough of them featured it, enough of the things, you got the Hype Machine chart. So I would go through Hype Machine, every single blog that played any music that I would say was similar to ours. I had start like 7 or 8 Gmail accounts because it was a limit on how many you could send at a time. 200, 500, 200 or 500. But so I just fill these accounts and just send emails to hundreds and hundreds of people.
Look at that graph. Look at that. Oh, that's old school back in the day, like making 7 or 8 email addresses.
This is the thing you have to. Well, look at our Spotify now, and like last week, 108,000 people listened to FooR last week.
Yeah, at the moment it says
different people, not listen, like 108,000 different. And I remember those days where I used to have to send out emails just to get people to listen to it. So these struggles are good to sort of having to go through this.
Yeah, and to be able to reflect back as well, like you said, in 10 years there, having to make 7 or 8 email addresses to send out hundreds and hundreds of emails to different Hype Machine websites that were affiliated with it, to now, like you said, what is it on Spotify at the moment? I got it up in front of me, just sitting under 300,000 monthly listeners regularly, month
and
on month.
I say, look, the figure that always blows my mind is the week, like say in a week, 108,000 people listen to individual people in the world. That's like how many just individual people listen to it. That sort of stuff blows my mind. But so I was like, saw Andy C, and then started making the ravey stuff again. But at the time, I was. So we clocked on. We just kept making music and not really getting anywhere. Sending it to labels, not really getting anywhere. Getting a little glimpse here, a little glimpse there. Nothing really happened. And then at the time I started clothing brands, and then a couple of the clothing brands really, really took off. And whilst the clothing brands had taken off, my resident DJing took me to Dubai. People were flying me over to Dubai to be resident. And I was DJing before EZ and Zinc and all these Sigma, Calawants in Dubai. I just remember like the next day being sat there thinking like, I don't even really try DJing like or production. Like I make clothes and I make music on the side. Like I need to have a go at just DJing and making music like for 1 year, just solid, nothing else. Clothes I can come back to, like people are always going to need clothes, but it's going to get to a point where, you know, I'm going to look like a dickhead making music when I'm really old and grey and still trying to have a music career. You know what I mean?
A lot of people are conscious of that, aren't they? About making it before a certain age and hitting it before, especially in the electronic. Well, not necessarily in the electronic music scene. I'd just say in the music scene. Do you reckon? What do you reckon that comes from?
Well, essentially our audience is like 18 to 22 in a club, like solid, like core, go out every week. Some people go out older, but that's your core. That's your sort of phase for doing it. Like that's when we're going out of our mates and that's when we're discovering it. We'll go to festivals together. We'll go to islands together. That's it. And then you start to grow up. So some people are just conscious of walking into a club full of 18-year-olds and going, I feel old. I'm not as bothered by it. But I just remember thinking like, I think I just turned 30 at that time. So it was like, that sort of freaks you out that age. Like you go, oh no, what's happening? I should be married and I should be this and I should be that. So it's that sort of thing. So I had no problem with doing clothes. I enjoyed doing clothes, but I think, I was just sat there thinking, it's got me to Dubai without even trying. Like, I should try. And I used to rent. This is how did FooR start? Look how long this has gone round. But it's so good. I used to rent the bottom of our clothing office to two producers who were making house and garage. Me and John were still making like rave, drum and bass type of stuff. And I just started under the name Gavin Foord. Because I thought I'll come back and I'm going to make it under Gavin Foord because that's where I've got myself DJ and that's what I DJ under. And my best friend, Phil Kemish, was manager of Gets and Rude Kid at the time. So I did a remix for Gets. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And then Rude
what
Kid
year was this then? Was this 2013?
2000, might be 13 for the Gets remix, 2013, 14.
Yeah.
I did a remix for Gets. And then he asked to do a remix for Rude Kid. And Rude Kid had done a version of I'm Sorry, the old garage song, Monster Boy, I'm Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, we want a remix, but we want it like a house and garagey remix. So I was like, we can do that. But we do this. But, these two guys I rent the office to, they do that. So let's do it with them. So we did it all together. And this remix went mad. And ours became the original, Rude Kid's become the remix. It was another vocal, and that's how FooR started. It got played on radio like over 600, 700 times. We did a video that did 70,000, just under 70,000 views in the first week on YouTube on our own channel, which did exist when the video come up. And we got offered a deal, and the deal fell through. But we put all of our money into this record, radio pluggers, because it took to radio. I gave it to Mr. Jam at a student. Basically, I was DJing student nights still 7 nights a week. Mr. Jam was booked. I was with him twice, Monday and Tuesday night, fresh as balls. So we gave it to him Monday and we sort of reminded him, look, I'm going to be here tomorrow. So if you don't play it, I'm going to give you a real hard time tomorrow. So I felt like he
added that little bit of peer pressure in there. Just going, go on, mate. I'm going to see you tomorrow. Don't make it awkward.
You'd have to hate it to come back here and sit in front of me and go, I didn't play your record.
Yeah.
So he played it, and I got everyone to tweet him. Look, everyone, you need to tweet him.
This is sick. This is sick. This is sick.
He come back and he goes, oh yeah, I played it. Yeah, so you've got all your friends to do it. Like he knew what I was doing. And I was like, yeah. But he played it again. And then people did actually start responding. Target started playing it. And then this person started playing it. And then it just took momentum. And it went mental. We did the video. It went mental. It's going to get signed. And this is Christmas time, 2014, 2015. And there's a big Christmas break. And by the time the Christmas break come around, a lot of heat had come off the record. The video came out in September. We'd done radio started in Freshers September. No, it was October, the video. We started Freshers. It came out in September. So this is like January, which is like an eternity about something that you could do to a record. So that was an eternity in the music industry, and that heat had gone off the record. And this is like madly when we come back and the guy who was going to sign it said, because it was quite a moody version of it. I'm sorry. It was like there was a darkness to it. There's a darkness to the song if you listen to the lyrics. It's obviously about someone cheating on someone. It's done very happily, but there's a darkness to it, and we caught the emotion of it, which is why it was allowed to go so far, because it was the first cover version Monster Boy actually said that they liked, because it brought out the emotion of the song as opposed to just trying to do it for the sake of it. And the guy actually said, if you do this happier with pianos and stuff, we'll sign it. And I was like, nah. And then obviously Joel Corey did it years later. So maybe that was a mistake, because he's doing all right now, Joe Corey. But I didn't even want to make house music. Like I wanted to make garage at that point. Like I've always wanted to make energetic music for clubs, not commercial stuff for radio.
And so then, like, just by chance, like that was January. So you had the
January. We spent all our money on this record. We gathered up enough money to do an EP, which got some radio play, but I didn't really know how to do an EP, really, a marketing wise thing. Like, just basically pissing in the wind. Had no money left. We started to get gigs off the back of how big I'm Sorry was. I got an agent off the book about, but I'm Sorry was always been. Obviously, from the DJing experience, always been good live. So started to get festivals and stuff, and was good. So I was getting return bookings and starting to get enough of a thing to keep it going. Like, had no idea what to do and made all these records to try and was again chasing a record deal. That's all we knew. Chase a record deal, try and get another record deal, going back to them, redoing I'm Sorry, but not doing it how they wanted, doing it enough, trying to find a compromise. Was doing anything I could to try and get money. And this went on for probably another year.
To sustain your income for this, have you got the clothing brand on the side as well?
Clothing brand's done now.
Okay.
It's on hold.
So it's just from the DJing,
I'm
really?
I'm too far in. Like, I'm DJing. I'm just about I've got two residencies, but they're hard to keep because if a Friday or Saturday come in for 4, I'd have to leave them. Which would piss them off. But I was just about hanging on by the skin of my teeth. And then I moved to London to try and really make, like, this is last throw of the dice, last bits of money. Going to go to London and chase the deal. Like, my friend was like, Phil, who's gets his manager and stuff, was like, you need to be in the room with these people. There's opportunities are going to come. And I went to London and he took me to Believe Distribution. And Believe Distribution gave me money to start a label. And I'd never started a label before. I'd never done any of this before. And
So did you pitch it? Did you pitch anything to them? Like, how come they just? This might sound like a stupid question then, but how come they?
It was off the strength of Phil's like the best talker.
Gift of the gab.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I didn't even play him a song.
They gave you money for a record.
I had all this music ready to play, and they didn't even hear it. Like, they're just like, maybe like, oh, I've got to stop this Phil guy from talking. I'll give you any amount of money, just stop talking. So they gave me money to start a label, and we released a song called Stand Up, which got loads of play. on radio again, but again, didn't really connect.
You just out of interest, because I haven't had the opportunity to ask this, and you feel free to say I can't tell you. How much money did they give you to start like a label originally?
It was £12,000, like €18,000, 17,500 euros, I think.
Okay, so
which we took over 2 different installments, but like in hindsight, it was mad payback rate. Like the percentage was real high, but we were fucked.
Yeah,
like I didn't even look at it. Like, what am I going to say? Oh, I can't do that rate, mate. Like, what are you going to say? Well, give me money for nothing, you fucking little prick. Take what you want. But like, so we released that single, then we released a song with James Hype, who's again, he's done all right as well. Again, they're all doing all right. Nothing's really fucking setting the world on fire. Again, but I believe in all these songs. They're great songs.
Yeah, you're managing to get by there, like pay your bills, pay your rent, pay stuff like that.
Yeah, we're signing records from artists that we loved. Witty Boy, Tengu, just sort of love these records. Sean Dean, but not knowing what to do with them, which is it's mad. Like this, some Tengu's still with us, and Sean Dean still records released and still make a lot of money, but didn't have a clue what we were doing. And they weren't making money then because it's all going back to paying off this debt. So no money was coming in. We're just releasing these records. And it's basically us, my friends, we were sat around and we were making music so quickly because there's 4 of us. We're churning out all these music, trying all these different singles. Every single was a radio plugger and a this and that, and so much money going into it. It was like every record was sending us more and more, taking out more and more of this debt. So we decided to do a compilation album, and everyone was like, "You can't do a compilation album. No one's going to buy a compilation album from a load of artists they've never heard of." But I was like, I don't want to do another single. I don't want to do another radio plugger. I want to just basically show off all these singles and see what happens. And it was a compilation album, but it was essentially just 4 people. It was us 4, a guy called Kirby, Ibiza Rock's resident, went on to be an Ibiza Rock resident. He's still on the label now. A guy called Fawn, who's like incredible garage producer, incredible. And Bitrate, who's now the A&R of our label, Garage Shed. So all these people are still involved, and we just released. And a guy called Dots Per Inch was the only guy outside of our group of friends who's gone on to do great things as well. And we released this compilation album, and it just fucking went into the album charts. It was like number 6 straight in.
And this is like the UK national album
charts. UK national charts, and I was like, what the fuck's going on?
So what do you think that was then? Was this some marketing from you guys, or was this like
strength in numbers for one? Yeah. I was like, look, everyone, you got to get your mums and stuff to buy this, your friends and things. Like people in Southampton were behind us because we're the only people in Southampton doing that sort of thing.
So is this 2016? Sorry, are we talking here?
It's been 2016 or yeah, it will be. Yeah.
2016.
Well, maybe 2015, but it's going to get blurry.
Yeah.
Once we get to Friends of Four, the timeline's solid.
Yeah.
Around here, it's all a bit blurry, but it was April.
Yeah.
And it must have been 2015, so I must have got blurry because 2016 was Yosh 2. It was called Yosh Volume 1.
Yep, I remember. Do you know what? Generally, what's funny about this is, which I haven't told you, is I don't want to interrupt your story here, but I went down to Bournemouth University. I was at Bournemouth University from 2013 to 2016. So sort of prime time when you were mentioning there, people like Kirby. I remember seeing you as well play at, what would it have been? Was it Sound Clash Southampton? There was an event. Yeah. In maybe 2015, I think it might have been, in Southampton, which you guys would have played at. I think DJ Zeb was at it as well, maybe as well.
Yeah, that was Soundclash. That was Soundclash. These are the festivals that we were doing that were keeping us alive.
So that was the first time that I remember seeing yourself. And because I was on the South Coast, and for those people that aren't listening or don't really know geography, Southampton and Bournemouth are very, very close. So I used to go out in Southampton a little bit as well. And I remember being out around that time, I think you pretty know Connor Scanlan, who we've had on the podcast with Foreverland. So I was
he was the first guy to ever book us outside of my group of friends.
Really? Well, I was
Yeah.
the very first resident to ever play. I was the very first DJ to ever play any Foreverland back in
Oh, wow.
2013, right at the very first one. But that was like, I mean, that's a different part of that. But that from that sort of being on the South Coast and hearing those boys, like you said there, all those people appearing on the compilation as well, it does take me back to being at university and being down there on the South Coast and stuff. But as we were mentioning there, so you had your compilation out 2016. It went straight in number
Went into
6.
the charts, and it ended up at number 11 in dance album charts or something, or one of the that mentally overperformed. And we went to, just after that, we did Yosh Volume 2, and again, same, but we did like 52 tracks on Yosh Volume 2. Like I discovered Lengoland in between Yosh. Lengoland is a group on Facebook, which is.
So we've had Junior on the podcast as well, as one of the earlier ones. We had,
And we discovered that in between Yosh Volume 1. So I contacted everyone on that I liked. Bush Baby, Jay Faded, all these people that I liked, and did 52 tracks ago, even more strength in numbers, like even more people buying it, and even like spread the thing. And again, went straight up of it, went a bit higher, ended up in the same place as Yosh Volume 1. And then we went to Majestic's launch of Pure House, or Pure House and Garage in London. And the guys who do the compilations were there, and they collared me and were like, "Oh, we just heard you did these Yosh albums. How did you do it?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "How did you do it? You beat all our albums that week." Like, obviously, they've been doing compilations forever. I had their compilations when I was in college, at school.
Yeah. So people that might not recognise this, they will recognise the front covers of these. So this will be like Pure Bassline, Pure House and Garage, Pure, like it's got the prefix after it. And like you said, they're compilations.
Yeah, DJ used to do them years ago. They've been around for the biggest. Pure Garage is the biggest selling garage compilation in the world. And they do pure running, pure, like everything. It's a massive, it's in supermarkets, TV advertising. It's a huge brand. It is a huge brand and like was massive and part of a lot of DJs' journey. So they were like, "How did you do it?" So, "Oh, can you come in and tell us how you did it?" And like, talked to us. So we went in and I told them, the outline of how we did it. And they said, "Oh, would you do it for pure future garage?" And I said, "Nah." I said, "You got to be pure garage or I'm not in it. Yeah. I'm not doing it." Didn't think it would happen. And they gave us Pure Garage, which was like the album that got us into garage.
Yeah. Loads of people are listening. Like you mentioned that Ezo back in the day doing the continuous mix of all the tracks on there. But people, Pure Garage, mate. Loads of people would have like listened to that back in the day. Do you think as well, you might have tapped onto something there where you were saying it was around the era, so 2016, and where you brought at the start saying, people were saying to you, nobody will buy a compilation with people that they've never heard of or stuff before, because you had a lot of tracks on there and you had artists that had a social following. And like you said, all of you have a sort of one big family where everybody would share it, would go, "Look, I'm featuring on this compilation today." They'd share it on their Facebook, they'd share it on their Instagram, they'd share it on their Twitter. That marketing and that release from having all of those artists on there and having that sort of social flex from like you said, you guys sharing it yourself would have a social flex, let alone having like 52 different artists on there, all sharing it on their accounts, driving those sales up and driving those numbers.
And it was all music that was unreleased before. So if you're the people that buy these albums are DJs. So I'm a DJ who bought these compilation albums. They'd always have the same tracks on them because they were relicensing things because they weren't built for us. But I was a DJ who and if there was enough on there that would make it worthwhile, I'd buy it. So I was like, well, why did we give them 14 tracks, 17 tracks, the first one, 17 tracks that they all want, and it's going to be a tenner, like it's going to be good cricket. And then I can't remember what Yosh 2 was, but it was that was the theory, like it was unreleased tracks. And that's what got us Pure Garage, because we got them unreleased tracks. We'd make them unreleased tracks, so we'd do the things, and that was pure the DJ. So they'd license certain things from the bigger names to get into the supermarkets. We'd get the originals from our friends and we'd make them. And that original content mixed with things. So it's original content, it's strength in numbers. So it's a lot of people making a little noise makes a big noise. And we managed to hack a system. And also not a lot of dance albums come out week per week. So if you get lucky with the week it comes out, you're gonna go up and you're gonna make a dent. If you get a quiet week and no big thing comes out, and you got everyone to pre-order it or everyone to buy it on the day, you're gonna jump up and make a thing. And like people understand the charts and iTunes. Everyone knows what Apple and iTunes and the charts are. If I say I'm number one on Beatport, not many people are going to know what that means.
Yeah.
Normally, but if I say I'm number one on Apple and iTunes, my mum knows what that means.
Yeah.
My mum's friend knows what it means, and then they'll start to get involved. Oh, Anne's son's doing this. Have you seen? Or we better buy it. And my mum's getting nurses to buy it at a ward and stuff like that. And you're creating enough noise for people to take notice, and that's what happened. People took notice, and then we did their brand, and then I don't think he didn't ask for history for. He just asked how we got together. Yeah. But this is where it's gone. But
yeah, absolutely.
And then from putting Pure Garage together, we obviously there wasn't a lot of new garage around at that time. We spent ages going through podcast radio shows to find a garage. When we come out of it, we were so energized by garage. We made the best garage record we've ever made, a record called 3 Words, which went mental. Again, radio things did the thing I'm Sorry did, was used as a Radio 1 bed. It come out on the 25-year anniversary of UK Garage. So Radio 1 and 1 Extra were doing all garage all weekend, and our songs and things, we got mixes out of it, essential tune out of it. It was a bed on Radio 1. It's this thing. But the problem with, if you've got an independent record and it's gone mental, you've got to put more money into it. Okay, you need another radio plugger. You need to do a video. The video's got to be somewhere sunny. It's a garage record. So we're in Spain and doing all this stuff. So if you have an independent record and it takes, you have to go up the steps, the ladder, you want to get it signed once it takes, ideally, I guess is the goal. Well, that was the goal then. So they're it could get Radio 1 playlist, could get 1 Extra playlist, because you should bet everyone's playing it. You need to keep the momentum going.
From an outsider's perspective, like what you were saying because some people might think, oh, it's independent and it's doing really well, so you're probably making loads of money because you haven't got to give it to.
No, we had no money. This was the last of that. I believe we talked about the advance.
Yeah.
This is the second half of it.
Right. Okay.
So I took it in 2 halves. This was the second half of the Believe money I told you about earlier. We took it in 2 halves, which was a good idea. But basically, this whole second half of it went on this record. And it went up to about 12.5, 13 grand we spent on 3 Words to try and get it. But the thing is, once it stops, it doesn't get what it needs to do. That's it. We're still paying off this debt, so nothing's coming back in. And at that stage, it was like we had no money. There was a real bad personal thing that happened in my life, and I didn't want to. I didn't want to carry on, but it was bleak. It was bleak. All our money had gone. All the money we borrowed had gone. Sort of lost a bit of faith in even the universe. I used to put a lot of faith in everything happens for a reason, and stuff that happened personally made me think I can't see the reason why some of this stuff happened. So it got to a point, but we had at this time we had records. We had a couple of records that were going viral, completely independent of this. We'd done a version of Everybody's Free that Holy Goof and Skepsis were playing, and they were playing at Boomtown. Creamfield was getting these massive videos. Everyone wanted it. And we'd done an instrumental called Hustler, and Killer P and Ira had gone on to Represent Radio and had rapped over this instrumental, and the video had gone viral about 3 times. 3 different times this video had gone round of them rapping on it. So I contacted them reluctantly because he was called Killer P. You never want to call someone called the Killer in their name.
Just for people listening, he's an MC, isn't he? So Killer P and Ira are 2 people that might know. So Ira, probably most people would know him if they were to know him mainstreamly. Featured on Chasing Status's.
He's Chasing Status MC now,
yeah. So he's officially their MC. Before taking over from Rage, he featured on their album, their last album and stuff like that, on a couple of tracks. I think Program was the one featuring Ira, wasn't it? I think it was called.
Yes,
Program.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Killer P is obviously he's a not obviously, but he's a grime MC as well. Was spitting over
years, yeah. But calling someone called Killer P that you don't know and asking them essentially, do you mind recording that track that you keep doing that's going viral? I was scared, but he's the most polite and nicest person ever. So we recorded these things. So we had these 2 records that are in real high demand, and we got, what are we going to do with them? Didn't know what we were going to do with them. Built all over the place at that time. So then basically just had this idea of, the last little bit of money we had left, we had some other records because we were just making stuff for shows. We're still doing loads of shows and still making things and still collaborating with anyone. because of Free Word Success and Pure Garage, we could like collaborate with Lisa Mafia would come to the studio with us. And it was like, wow, this is so solid. Cruise Lisa Mafia. Like I used to listen to her when I was at school, and Jaguar Skills. Like all these people wanted to work with us. So we were like, cool, let's just do it. Like not thinking anything of it. And then we had a collection of records, some of which were in demand, and also just people we were working with because we were fans of them. And we just had the idea, we'll just do this collaboration album. It was kind of half garage, half bassline. And it was like, didn't say it was the last Freddo Dies, but it was, because that was our last money. Like our money had run out.
Just out of interest, because some like, if this might be a stupid question, you know, where the compilation had gone into like number 11 and number 6 in the charts, in the dance charts. How come that hadn't made like money for yourself that you guys could use there?
We were paying off the advance from Believe.
Right. Okay.
And we were paying off they were taking a real high rate.
Right. So because the interest rate was so high on that, like that 12
not an interest rate, just a percentage that they take off all the money took in, which they rightly so. They're taking a complete gamble on someone who'd never released a record before.
Yeah.
So there's not a bad word to say against Believe. They are the reason I'm sat here, so I'd never say a bad. But it was, and also like, this might sound weird to people listening who haven't released music, but will sadly sound familiar to people that do, is you don't think you're going to make any money from releasing music. You're releasing music to get shows. Like, so you don't think it's unheard of to, no matter what success you get, to go, oh, okay, there's no money for music. I've never had money for music. And that's the two familiar labels don't pay it. And it, you know, if you're streaming, it's 0.0, you know, everyone knows that figure of how small that money is. And
I think the general gist that we had, someone chatting on the podcast before was saying every million streams roughly equates to £5,000. Roughly, give or take. No, you reckon that's too high?
It's about $4,000.
$4,000, right? Okay,
it's about $3,200.
Even less than.
Depending on, you know, what sort of deal we got a distributor and stuff. But yeah, it's about that, you know. And I'm not against Spotify, but it's essentially we're paying off a debt. So, and I was not used to getting money back from recording records anyway. So releasing these things. So that was the last of our money. We released this album. We had one single called Premonition on it, which we put all the money into as the radio one. Released this album. We did this massive campaign, all of our money into the campaign, into the last bit of it. And the album again did well. iTunes and stuff. The single didn't take. No one cared at radio. No one, it didn't take. And the album did all right. The tour sold out in the 4 places we did it. We do things in fours because we're called FooR.
Nice.
And it kind of just ticked along. But this was before the streaming days. And then, like nothing really happened. And we started to do gigs. That we're doing favours for people, getting onto lineups, things, squeezing ourselves onto things, still not making really any money from gigs. And there's a longer story, which is we mental for how long this story of you asking how FooR got together is going. I told you the whole story.
It's perfect, mate. It's spot on. I want this level of detail. It's fine. It's absolutely great.
But basically, there was one, we did Peer Jam in Blackpool, which changed our lives. We did Plymouth before, which is a friend, and for a friend, it wasn't very good. We had this is the bottom of the barrel.
Crowds, like bad crowds. Are we talking here? Right.
It wasn't very busy. Like, we had this was like the bottom, like no money. Like this was it. Like, I was surviving from what Starbucks threw out at the end of the day because they were opposite.
Is this like 2017?
This is 2017, end of 2017.
Yeah.
But we were surviving like what Tesco's would sell, Starbucks giving away. Like it was a real bleak time. Went all the way to Plymouth as a favour, and we had Blackpool the next day. Plymouth to Blackpool is
long drive.
Blackpool is Peer Jam, which is an amazing gig, but drop petrol, hotels were coming from Plymouth. So we essentially you're going to lose money. Like, but if it goes well, this promoter does We Are Festival, Amnesia, these things, like it's a great lineup to be on. So it's keeping us.
It's interesting for people to hear, because obviously, like where we said the whole story from back there. So you've had compilation releases, you've had like people mixed together, like you've done the stuff with like Pure Garage, you've done all of these bits and pieces, and it's still like you said, 2018. There yourself, as you've honestly said, you're like, we're still sort of struggling to make ends meet at this sort of time.
Still not making any money, and it's obviously a bit of that's because there is four of us, so there's a lot of money to split, and we started our own labels, which takes a lot of the money. We're doing everything ourselves. If you're an artist, usually you're on a label and they're taking those costs, but we're doing everything ourselves at this point. And we're going up to Blackpool after doing this gig in Plymouth that was a bag of dicks, and we're driving up. Headphones broke in Plymouth, so we've got to go via Birmingham to buy headphones that I can't afford to buy to go to this gig in Blackpool. And as we get to Blackpool, it starts raining, like it's fucking it down with rain. And we get a call, and it's a pier, and there's no one on it. No one's out there in the rain. So it was like, and I remember just thinking, like, this is it. This is going to be the end. Like, because we're going to come out of this weekend with nothing. And we turn up at the pier and it's raining. And along the side of the pier is like a massive pavilion, like a building. By the time we come out this building to the stage, the sun's come out. Everyone's come back, and it was the best gig of our lives. And we got the manager from that thing. We got all those gigs I mentioned that these people do. We Are Festival, Amnesia. We got all of those, Bass Jam, off the back of this gig, because we've always been good. We've always been good. It's just that moment, and that's that moment. But you know, that we were always thankful for that day, because at one point, like, I can remember thinking, this is it. This is the last weekend I'm going to do this.
Yeah. And to go from that to suddenly then get in, because the sun came out, because you had the energy, because you could show off to the people that had that influence to book you for, like you mentioned there, Amnesia, We Are Festival, these other places. It was just the right time, like all of that energy and all of that hard work.
We got our manager off the back of it. We got the guy who does our PR off the back of that gig, because we were so good. It sent ripples through, like all these people heard about it and talked about it. And yeah, it's these moments, and yeah, that, you know, it can go either way, and you've got to keep persevering. You've got to keep going, because, you know, like, I didn't want to go all the way to Blackpool and buy the headphones and things. And when the rain started, you just think, but you keep going. And like, we released our first record in 2002, and that was 2018, and that was the moment that turned it around. So it's depending how you want it.
Yeah, 16 years from the very first
question. FooR got together in Southampton.
That's all right, mate. That's all right. It's a 30-minute answer, but I love it. I love all of the details. I love all of the twists and turns. And I also genuinely, I know we're laughing there, but there will be people listening in the music industry, starting to get into the music industry, halfway through the music industry, like thinking about chucking the towel in, thinking about, like, it's not going in their right direction there. And to hear from you.
We're doing a documentary. Friends of FooR is 4 years old next year, and it is the album that turned everything around. So we're doing we recorded all of this stuff. That Blackpool thing, we were vlogging at the time, all of it. So we did a documentary, like a brief, probably briefer than my answer to your question, about Friends of FooR, the making of it and what it led to and what it is. And it's about these times, and it's about 4 artists that release independently, because everyone always posts about the successes.
Yeah, it's good to get the balance, mate.
There's a million of these knockbacks and the shit you have to go through, like, yeah, and I think people need to hear this stuff. So that's part, you know, we're going to do the documentary. We have to claw through all the footage and stuff, and that'll come out around. We'll probably release a deluxe album and release new versions of some of the bigger songs and stuff.
So like you said there, having that balance in the music industry, having that, it's not always sunny, it's not always the nicest things that you see. For people's mental health and for people to get perspective on stuff, it is refreshing, and it is essential to hear practically, like you said, some of your darkest times and your worst part where you thought, I can't do this DJing anymore, I can't do this producing, we can't physically afford it, I'm not making enough money. Literally in the space of a day, went from that to suddenly having the most important...
We're going from Southampton to Plymouth, from Plymouth to Blackpool, from Blackpool back to Southampton, and we're going to come back minus however much money, and no one was there at either of the things. Like, what we doing? Like, how long can you carry on losing money to go all around the country playing to no one? Like, that was and that's the turning point. And I think, as you say,
2018.
It's important for people to know there are turning points.
It is absolutely. 100%. Whether you're a producer, whether you're a DJ, whether you're an agent, whether you're someone that is putting on events, whether you're someone that is organising festivals, there will people that will suffer knockbacks and suffer fallbacks and suffer hurdles in the industry. And like you said, you just don't know when your luck and when your opportunities are going to turn. Which is fantastic. So moving on from 2018 there, the turning point, getting booked at those. So for example, getting booked at those big events, what does that do? Does that mean that you're suddenly getting a bigger booking fee, so you're generating more money that way? Or is it just sort of like a sort of...
Not really. Like, it's not like the money changed, but the crowds are better. The content becomes better because the crowds are more receptive to the thing. They view in a certain light. We're just doing better shows, going to better parts of the things. Like, say the money didn't get better, and it wasn't like the end of our troubles. It wasn't like the end of our financial troubles, but it was like, you're getting somewhere, and then you're making music, and people are responding. You're getting a more natural reaction from the music, which you might not get from doing like commercial shows. They might not get the sort of things, and respect from your peers and stuff like that. Stuff like the little things that you need in this business to carry on because the money takes so long to come. So we're still financially struggling, but we're doing better shows, we're doing better things, like over succeeding. We're doing a Ushuaia, Amnesia, like places I've never dreamed of playing. Like, especially with what we do, Boomtown, like all these festivals, like it's amazing. Just enjoying it. Like, we're all just having a good time and over succeeding. Like, I think I've got to a point where like I've already overachieved, done more than what. So you become kind of content with what you're doing, but it's still like an overlying, like, how are we going to pay for everything? How are we going to pay for everything? Because we want to release our other artists' music. We want to support other artists because no one supported us. The ethos of the labels is help people wherever we can, because no one ever helped us. If we would have got help, we'd be, in a much different position now. But no one ever helped us. We had to help ourselves, and we always want to be there to help other people. So we put ourselves in that position. So we're trying to cover all of this stuff. And yeah, we went through 2019. At the start of 2020, we got a second deal from Believe in between that, a second advance, which kept us going. And then in early 2020, we paid off the second Believe thing. So money started coming in each month from the labels, which was like, what? The first time we'd ever seen money from the music we sold.
Yeah.
Like, what? And then we got a Coors Light advert.
That's what I was going to get onto here. So the big thing that people might recognise you from, if they don't, for example, if they think, I've not heard of FooR, I've not heard of Gavin before, I've not heard of stuff, you absolutely have heard his music before, 100%. From the Coors Light advert, the one where the bloke is swimming through the snow. This is what I was going to get onto. The two big points here that this wraps up with, not wraps up with beautifully, but where you were saying the turning point is here and the change in the different bits. The distribution deal with this is what I was going to talk about, the Coors Light advert, and also getting signs to Warner Music. Two very, very monumental, positive, massive things. Number one, how does it, for people that haven't watched it, you'll recognise it. It's been in the cinema, it's been on Sky Sports, it's been on Channel 4, it's been on Channel 5, ITV. It's the Coors Light advert where somebody is swimming through the water. It's FooR, it's Dread MC, and it's Majestic, isn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. And that tune, that advert has been absolutely everywhere. Preamble on TV shows, adverts at the cinema, like absolutely everywhere. How does a distribution deal like that come around?
It's fucking mental, to be honest. Like, we have a generic email, wearefoor@gmail.com.
Yeah.
And we got an email saying, oh, can we use your song in an advert? There's no information. It's informal as that. So we sent it to our manager. Like I said, this is probably a waste of time because they come through such, that's how like anyone off the internet search, that's the email you'd find. And like we read everything, but it's not how a massive company would approach you. They'd find the manager or the agent, you'd think. So I sent it to the manager and said, this is probably nothing, but it's probably, you need to chase it up. And he did. And then he come back and goes, I think this is something. Like, I went, all right, cool. Like we said, we've been doing this for so long and so many things almost happened, like just didn't think anything of it. And then this was July 2019.
So when did Fresh come out?
2017.
So
4 years ago. Hang on. 2018 is 4 years ago. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's it, yeah. So that's where I'm getting messed up. I'm thinking Friends of FooR come out 2017. It come out 2018. So yeah, Fresh come out 2018 It was the last tune on Friends of Four. We had that beat and no fucker would record on it at all. We sent it to everyone and their dog, because I was like, this beat is it. I said, I'm fucking telling you, this is it. And before my music comes out, I'll fucking fight anyone. Like, no one can tell me it's shit. When it comes out and it doesn't stream very well or something, then I start to doubt myself. But before, like, no one. So this beat, I'm sending it to everyone. I sent it to Dread. And Dread, literally, like, he's amazing. He can find a hook on any beat.
Yeah.
So he found this hook, and I was like, oh, this is good. But he's left all this space. And I've always been a fan of Majestic, and convinced Majestic in like the 11th hour, please MC on this thing. We're recording it in January. The album come out 17th of February. We're still recording it. So this is like the last minute of it all.
So the last track on the
last track on the album, almost didn't make the album. It's literally like, if it wasn't for Dread doing that thing and then begging Majestic. So that came out 2017. And then, 2019, June, we got on this email, sent it back. Then the manager goes, oh no, I think this is something. And then nothing. Then he said, and then I can't remember the timeline, but he's like, oh, look, this is the thing. They won't tell you who the company is, which I would suggest, usually suggests it's someone quite big.
Yeah.
They're going to agree. They're going to send through some terms. I'm like, all right.
Because in your mind, I suppose you're sort of like, well, that tune came out like a couple of years ago. Like it's under that last.
Whatever. Whatever. Do what you want with it. Like, nothing. And then the 1st of January, it's like, we agreed the terms, things. 3rd of January, 4th of January, they're like, yeah, this is it. It's coming out. It's Cause Light. So what? Jean-Claude Van Damme people, yeah? Well, we were Jean-Claude. They're like, no, you're replacing Jean-Claude. Comes out the 4th of February. So, okay. And then we went up, and then the advert come out like before Man United. We're watching the game and stuff. And then the Shazams were mental. And then they literally contacted us out of the blue. I still don't know how they picked that song, of all the songs that exist in the world, how they picked that song. But it was on so much that Shazams was so mental. Yeah. That Warner signed it. Because they don't ignore Shazams or TikTok, because it's natural. You can't manipulate it. So we got signed, and it's like what? And then we went into lockdown, and all the sporting events stopped. Yeah, and for the good, or well, it was good for the label, but it's we thought that was it. We thought this was going to be it. We got to a major label. We were on TV more than fucking anyone could imagine. And then everything stopped. The whole world stopped. But being before every sporting event, and for the first time ever, every sporting event's cancelled. Like, mental. Did you
generate, was it, I'm not going to ask the terms because obviously private, but was it financially like you were like, oh, this is it? I don't have to worry about money anymore, like, because I have no idea about distribution.
It's not that you don't have to worry about money anymore, but the first payment we got, obviously there's four of us in the group, Majestic and Dread, so you split that with much ways for a start. But the first thing I did is we were a record label that were running. We were like 5 years deep as a label at that stage, and had never paid anyone. Not out of, well, we didn't have any money for one, but we just didn't account properly. So all my fresh money for the first thing went to paying off everyone that I owed money to in music. Probably not a great idea to say that, but it's the truth. Like, we didn't, again, but we weren't used to being paid. Yeah. But we got the Believe money. And when we got this Thing money, I was like, oh, wait a minute, you do get money for music. I should pay anyone it's earned. And we got this amazing accounting company that went through 5 years of accounting, brought us all back to speed, told us what we owed everyone, and I paid everyone with that money. And then, we're just about to go into our 3rd year of the Cause Light thing. They've used it for 3 years. We get money every year. Yeah, we get money every year. Jeez. We get money every year. We got the Warner deal off of it. Yeah. So, yeah, it's in total, it's that one record's generated more than probably every record we've ever, definitely every record we released, probably every record we've released on the label.
Yeah, that's incredible. That is absolutely incredible. Like you said, the last track on your debut album, you were struggling to find MCs to spit over it, and you were like, "Nah, this will be it." And then literally 2 years later, out
Yeah,
of
we
the
just
blue,
listened to that beat. We listened to that beat all the time on the way to gigs, and I was like, "Why is no one jumping on this?"
yeah,
But we've had this problem, and we still have this problem now. We don't really sit in a genre. We're garage influenced, but we were making hardcore 20 years ago. We're 4 different people, 4 different tastes. So nothing, some bit more generic than others, but essentially we're in between genres. We make bassy garage, we've gone into drum and bass a bit because we're songwriters, but it's our interpretation of it. So we never get radio or artists play it. So to do a song like that you believe, like a beat that you believe in, you keep hammering it. It's the best feeling. The best feeling is for a record that you believe in and you knew was good. And we used to play it at gigs. Immensely, not every gig fresh after Friends of FooR, but I used to play it because I liked it. It never, to be fair, the original arrangement was mental. I don't know what I was thinking, but I always
just
thought
use
the
it
record,
as a VIP now. Use it as a VIP. Have the original one.
The record was, I just believed in it, believed in it, and for it to come back round and get the recognition and the thing to be used an advert and to however you judge success. If you judge it as money or streams or things, however you judge it, to go, that record that you said was good, well, it's made this much money and it's streamed this, so you were right. And you think, oh, thank God I'm not fucking going mental because I thought it was brilliant and no one else did at the time. Or you felt like, you can feel like that sometimes.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you absolutely can. And like you said, to have that self-assurance and have the universe go, we are, like you said there, however you do recognise success, it has been on multiple TV channels. It's been before and after multiple sports events. It's been in cinemas. It's been absolutely everywhere. People
it's the best. It's the best feeling ever. And as I said earlier, with the clubs we played, we've overachieved, and I think it's not a bad position to be in, feeling like you've overachieved, because it takes the pressure off. You're like, I feel like I've done more than I ever hoped, I never dreamed of, and now I'm just going to do stuff that makes me happy. I'm just going to create what I want to create and do what I want to do, and that's. I think every musician just wants to wake up and make music in the morning that they love. That's the goal. Money's brilliant, whatever, but that's the thing. You want to wake up and go, I'm going to make this tune today because I love it. Not I'm going to wake up and panic about how I'm going to pay for things and try and make some tune to try and get on some playlist or some radio or whatever your box to try and tick to try and get a booking or try and do this. I wake up and I'm like, I'm going to make this today, and I'm going to sit in with this person and do this and do that, and that's always been a goal. And there's a level of contention that I'm so content with that. And we wake up every day and what music am I going to make? How am I going to get more people to hear my music? How am I going to get more people to hear the music on the label? And every day is our mission to get people to listen to our music and the music on the label and the people we believe in. And that's without knowing it, that's always been the goal, I guess.
Do you think that's why you're so supportive now? Because some people that are listening might not realise. So like you said, you've got the multiple labels there. You've got the likes of Yosh, you've got the likes of Garage Shared, you've got the likes of Friends of FooR. Those labels put out music that give a lot of artists probably their first break, probably their first sort of signing, their first opportunity to be able to put stuff out and to be able to have that first signing. Do you think that's sort of what stems you and as what fueled you to help give those people out? Because it's quite a family, it seems from the outside, just from my perspective, it seems like quite a family orientated. When I say family, I mean everybody sticking close together, even going back to that first compilation, like you mentioned, jumping straight in because of that family orientation and having that relationship with all of the artists there together, jumping in at number 6 and number 11 because you're giving back basically to new and fresh people.
Yeah, exactly that. In that overlong story I told about how FooR got together, obviously there was a point where I said I didn't know what to do, how to release music. I didn't know how to do it. It's a lot easier now, but back then I didn't. And at that time, just needed advice, someone to tell you how to do it yourself, do it this, do it. And no one told us. So when we started the labels, part of it was we're going to make ourselves available for new artists to help them release, help them answer the questions that no one would answer for us and save them time and money. if someone was there to tell us do this, do that, we would have saved fucking years and fucking loads of money because we had to do all the mistakes ourselves. So that's what the label's there for. It's there to and as we said in the story, we're putting all the money into our releases, into everything, into this. It puts a burden on an artist, which stops you thinking about the music you're making and starts you thinking about how you're going to pay a bill, how you're going to do this, how you're going to do that. We're here to take the burden away from artists and make them think about music because, as I said, like, we're content now doing what we want to do because we don't have to worry about this and that. That's what we want to try and create for artists. Just you go and you be you, because we never had that chance. We would be us and then have to panic about how we're going to pay our own bills.
Optimistic, mate. Absolutely optimistic. And like you said, you've got the labels there. You've got a roster of artists that you're helping curate yourself and helping give guidance to, helping give a platform to. And then you mentioned there about the documentary as well.
Yeah, again, I think we're committed to, say, helping artists by showing them that it's not all massive crowds and flights to exotic countries and exotic things. Like, if you want to do this, like, you've got to work constantly. We've dedicated ourselves a day to the studio. It used to be 2, but for the last 8 years, we do a day in the studio together, at least.
Is this a week, or a month, or a
week? One day a week for the last 8 years. Like, you learn like anything. We still learn now. That's as a group, not individually. So that's loads of people putting in individual studio time, always honing the craft. We're still learning now. In lockdown, we started doing an insane amount of courses. Always want to learn more and do the best. And I think it's important that people see what goes into this shit. The amount of money, the amount of time honing your craft, putting out stuff, making mistakes, learning the things, because the internet can sometimes present that, I've just made this record and it's gone massive, and that's not the case, and it's unhealthy to think that's the case.
Like you said, yeah, having that overnight success, like someone said, even appearing on a TikTok video, or it's not building a foundation necessarily for you to.
Well, I think Scream said it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. Didn't he tweet that or something? That was his quote.
That's a good quote. That is a very good quote.
It's the truest quote ever. And if you are, like, obviously TikTok's a huge thing, but it's not good to come out of nowhere because there's no foundation, and you can't build anything if there's no foundation. Yeah.
Like we said here, people listening to this, Gavin, 16 years of hard graft and experimenting.
It's 20. We released our first record 20 years ago, February the 20th, 2002. So next year.
So literally.
So whenever this goes out, this will go out 2022. So 20 years this year will be a release of our first ever record.
I think genuinely, personally, it's sick that you guys are showing that other side to it, because there is such a rose-tinted, sometimes, well, a lot of the time, there is such a rose-tinted like viewpoint in the music industry, on social as a whole, and just in life, really. So everyone's shouting about their wins. Everyone always just shouting about their wins.
Tyrone in the group, like, over lockdown, he had a huge audience going live every night. I don't know if you saw it.
I did actually. It would always come up on my notifications going, Tyrone's going live, always on Instagram.
But from what it looked like he went from January of the start of this year to maybe 2 or 3 months, ridiculous, to 240,000. And people look like it, just that jump. But people forget that he went live every night for a year previous to that.
Yeah.
From the first lockdown, every night. And there was a whole year. I mean, that's still fucking quick of no one caring. But people just go, he's, come out of nowhere. But no, like, you have to put in the hours and preparation and learning stuff. I think people need to see the hard stuff that goes into things, because it's unhealthy for people to see it. And it was also like, people need to learn to stick with things, with anything, like in anything in life. You need to keep with it.
Gavin Foord, that has been an absolute pleasure and a privilege to hear absolutely everything from the very start, the very earliest doors of you. It's listening to your cassette, recording your cassette tape with Terence Trent D'Arby. It's pressing pause, pressing play, and
take it out when you finish. Sign your name.
Terence Trent D'Arby. I'm going to check that out literally after this podcast recording, and because I've never listened to any of his work, but all the way back there at the start, going through your record store days, going through selling and buying tape packs. DJing, belt-driven turntables, meeting the boys, doing the DJing, doing the commercial stuff, doing the residencies.
Sorry it went on so long, but like...
No, mate, not at all. It's been an
years. So it's worth 27 years, whatever maths you did. Like
don't apologise at all, mate. I love hearing about the detail. That not only me, there will be loads and loads and loads of people that will listen to this that absolutely love hearing about the biography of artists, love hearing about from your perspective that you've given from running labels, from running, just having the realism as well of going, it took us 16 years to get to 2018 before we sort of like were making money that we were sort of healthy at, or even hearing the side of going, you know what, we were going to have to throw in the towel, but thankfully like something was shining down on us that meant that we got in front of those people, that we heard that thing. It's just perfect, mate, to have that balance. And obviously I really, really hope that the documentary goes fantastically for you as well, because I think it's just going to elevate that more and just help give that balance and help give that sort of other side of the industry. And also not just showing the other side, showing all your success as well. Fuck me, for the last 90 minutes, we've heard fantastic stories and absolute incredible information and advice for people in the music industry and advice for people that are listening. And like you said, giving that platform and helping and sharing with those artists and making something that new artists can come along with, and just giving your expertise in detail, mate. Gavin, it's been an absolute pleasure.
No, thank you for having me. I've enjoyed it. And I enjoy the series. I enjoy listening to these. So pleasure to be a part of it.